I'm going to talk about breath work, and this is something that we really don't think very much about as we go around our day, unless you are interested in yoga and other disciplines where the breath is cued or referred to as you go about your exercises. And so it's very easy for us to spend quite a significant portion of our day holding our breath and or breathing through the mouth. And so both of these things are detrimental potentially to our overall health and well-being. And so to bring the breath under conscious control is something that is worthy of practice. And definitely when we participate in activities such as yoga and Pilates, my two most favorite things, this is when people start to ask us to breathe as you do a certain thing in a certain way. And this is very unfamiliar for the vast majority of people. And so to begin to learn a little bit about the mechanics of breathing and how to bring this under a little bit more conscious control without it turning into something that is potentially even more dysfunctional, because this is something that does happen. To know that the diaphragm is a sheet of muscle which is attached to the margins of the rib cage, and it's the action of the diaphragm. It's a muscular sheet of muscle, and as the diaphragm descends, it creates negative pressure in the lungs, which draws the air into the lungs. It's the raising of the dome of the diaphragm that allows the air to leave the lungs. And so it's this action of the diaphragm that we really want to encourage. And this may not be new to you. So the diaphragm's attachments to the margins of the rib cage speak to the fact that when we inhale and exhale, there should be some movement in the rib cage. And so as you inhale, under normal circumstances, you would expect the rib cage to expand upwards and outwards. And this has been called a bucket handle action by lots of people in the past, a lifting and lowering of the rib cage. We'd also expect the front part of the rib cage to expand upwards and outwards in a similar fashion. Less familiar, the sense of the back of the rib cage expanding upwards and outwards. And so we are looking at rib cage expansion in all three directions: forwards, sideways, and backwards. So to bring this into awareness, it's nice to place a hand on the front of the rib cage, the breastbone, as you inhale and exhale, and just be aware of any movement in this area underneath your hand as you breathe in and out. And so what we do know is that breathing through the nostrils will always access the diaphragm more readily than breathing through the mouth. And this is because the narrowed opening creates back pressure. And so breathing through the nostrils is more likely to encourage this ribcage excursion also. So we can just monitor the breath as we breathe normally, or you might want to just take a very slightly deeper breath than you normally would, just to really notice this ribcage movement. And then one hand onto the side of the ribs and monitor that movement in both directions, forwards and upwards and outwards to the sides. So just monitoring this movement. And the thing that's really important is that the movement occurs as a consequence of the flow of air. And that we're not just contriving the movement without the accompanying flow of air. And this is very common, particularly when we start to talk about belly breathing, which I'm not going to, by the way. So breathe in and out, monitor this movement, and then bring one hand around the back of you, onto the back of the rib cage. So if you are not on the ribs, you're not likely to feel the ribs move. So make sure that you are right there on the back of the rib cage. And as you inhale, Inhaling, notice this expansion of the ribs, and you can see my hand move, and then the recoil as you exhale. So breathing in through the nostrils and breathing out through a relaxed jaw, just allowing the air to flow out of you. And then just relax and breathe normally for a few moments, because we don't want anybody to start to feel dizzy or nauseous, and both of those are possibilities.